Well, my role here at Community Human Services is as Chief Executive Officer. I had started here in our housing programs, so I had met George Moses probably about 15 years ago at this point. I was at a community forum and George was talking about the Housing Authority and the fact that they had a master plan, and it was a public plan where people could go and make comments. And at the time I was working as an AIDS housing planner and had never heard this before, that they were public meetings and that we could look at their plans ahead of time. Got a hold of the plan, went to the meeting, learned a lot about what the housing authorities do, what they don't do, what they prioritize, and it was a really powerful experience. And from meeting George, I got connected to the Alliance. There's a conception that housing is really affordable in Pittsburgh, and maybe for some people it is, but that concept of, I remember, I think it was $12.61 was the housing wage the first time I looked at it, and thinking about the fact at the time minimum wage was $5.25, and really talking to people about the fact that it's double to triple this housing wage of what minimum wage is. And your conception that people who need affordable housing don't work or are lazy, these are people who are working 2 full-time jobs, sometimes 3 full-time jobs, and just barely managing to secure and keep their housing. That's an incredibly powerful piece of information. We actually, you probably don't know this, but we pirate materials from what you send us into our advocacy newsletter that we send out to our staff every week. So Stephen and Dina and Genevieve and Diane and myself, we're pulling those pieces out of the communications we get, and we're putting them directly in the hands of our staff with messaging to them. This is why this is important to CHS. These are the programs that this will hit and hurt. These are the faces of the people who will be impacted by this. And the Housing Alliance and Regional Housing Legal Services and some other partners really create our pipeline to a variety of issues and really help us craft our strategies in a way that's much more sophisticated and mature than we could do if we were starting from the ground to try to pull all of this together ourselves.
Moving forward.
I think that housing has not been a politically sexy issue, and really all of us need to figure out a way to make it so. It impacts everyone. Literally everyone is impacted by housing, but yet it's a throwaway so much of the time, and I think together with all of our voices, we really need to ramp this up on a national level. That I want to see the housing president. I'm sick of the gay marriage president. I want to see the housing president. What are you going to do? So that we really have a base for people to move from. If you can't have a home, if you think in your day, if I didn't have a home, what would this day look like? It is next to impossible to do any of the things we take for granted if you don't have that home-based start. But yet we continue to allow our housing stock to be decimated. We continue to allow landlords to raise rates to a level that's literally obscene from a profit margin. We allow properties to become dilapidated and people are still living in them because it's all they can afford. We have to do something about that. We can't call ourselves the richest country in the world and tolerate what we tolerate. It's just unacceptable. And I think that's the place where we really, if we really united, we could have some pretty serious power.